Before we jump into the episode today, I want to share something with you from my heart. First of all, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I really can't tell you how much your support means to me. We've been doing the podcast now for almost 4 years. I can't even believe it. And I'm so grateful for each and every single one of you that listens, shares an episode with your friends, sends me a DM or a text message letting me know how an episode resonated with you or any aha moments. Seriously, I couldn't be more grateful to be able to create this podcast. It has been such a blessing in my life, and I love hearing the ways it's been able to provide value in yours as well. One thing you might not know is how much work it takes to be consistent with a podcast. In fact, did you know that the majority of podcasts don't make it past episode number 10? And we are well beyond that. And it's just a lot thinking of the episodes, recording them, editing them, managing the guests, making sure that everything runs smoothly and gets uploaded consistently and regularly. And so that's why I have created an amazing opportunity for you to support the podcast monetarily. And in exchange for that, you will get exclusive premium subscriber content. So for as little as $3 a month, you can become a premium subscriber of the podcast. And every month I will upload new voice-guided workouts and breathwork meditation audio for you. So that way you can work out with me, coaching you in your ears. You can also take a moment to reduce your stress and relax and come down and ground down with one of my breathwork audios. So if that is on your heart to support the podcast for as little as $3 a month to become a premium podcast subscriber, I can't tell you how much that means to me and the growth of this podcast. I appreciate you. If you're interested, click the link in the description, become a premium podcast subscriber, new content every month, and while supplies last, I'll send you an exclusive podcast coffee mug so you can have your self-love and sweat coffee every morning. I appreciate you. Now let's get into the show. Welcome to Self-Love and Sweat, the podcast, the place where you'll get inspired to live your life unapologetically, embrace your perfect imperfections, break down barriers, and do what sets your soul on fire. I'm your host, Lunden Souza. Hey friend, it's me, Lunden Souza, online lifestyle transformation coach. I help people all over the world just like you who know they are meant for more, get their mind right and their body tight, and go from crazy busy to crazy happy. And hey, if it's our first time meeting, welcome. So happy to have you. And if you've been with us for a while, it's so great that you're here too. I'm really excited to share this episode of the Self-Love and Sweat podcast with you. Hey, I want to tell you quickly about 2 ways that you can get connected beyond the podcast to uplevel your health, your life, your fitness, reach your goals, but also support the podcast as well. So the first option is our Self-Love and Sweat monthly members only meetup. We meet up on the last Saturday of the month on Zoom for 90 minutes to cover some important topics, to answer your questions, and then to also do a workout together. It's a great way to have that support, have that accountability, get supercharged, and get reminded that there are other people all over the world on this journey of self-love and sweat, and you don't have to do it alone. You can join your first month for only $1 using code SELFLOVE1 at checkout, and then it's $27 a month after that. So you go to lifelikeLondon.com/monthly, use the code SELFLOVE1 at checkout to try us out, test it out for only $1 for your first month, and then you can be on board to listen to the podcast, join up on the meetups, and just really feel like you're connected and thriving on this journey to reach your goals. The second option is our Strong at Home for Women 8-week dumbbell-only workout plan. We have women all over the world getting stronger from the inside out right at home, right? So we're ready to take action to get stronger despite the circumstances of the world. And we know that we're not about to do that alone. So embark on this 8-week journey with us. You can go to lifelikeLondon.com/strong at home. You can pick up your 8-week plan. And the exciting thing is that every 8 weeks, we open it up, myself and my co-coach, for VIP all access coaching with us. So not only do you get the plan, but you get Zoom fireside chats with us. You get an exclusive way to chat with us anytime so you can ask your questions, share your progress. And we're always continuing to stay connected and motivate and inspire each other on our journey to get stronger, no matter what that means for us. So if you know that you're meant for more, you're ready to get stronger from the inside out, and you're just like, yes, I need a plan and some structure, something to tell me what to do. I know I'm ready, but I need that coaching. I can't do it alone. We are here for you. You can go to lifelikeLondon.com/strong at home, pick up the plan, figure out when our next VIP all access registration is opening so you can get that support and guidance. And the third thing, I said there was two, but the third thing is you can do both. You can join us for those monthly meetups. You can be there for the 8-week program. You know, this coaching and this support is here for you. We want to get you real results that last so you never have to start over again. And so you guys are awesome. Enjoy this episode. Get connected. Self-love and sweat, friends. Okay, on this episode of Self-Love and Sweat the podcast, we have a special guest, Jana. She is a registered dietitian and certified diabetes educator who is on a mission to help women break the vicious cycle of chronic dieting so they can increase their body positivity, self-esteem, and be successful far beyond their weight on the scale. Her strategies are rooted in simplicity, science, and real life. Jana is a published author, researcher, and was accepted to speak at TEDx Merced. And I'll even add that we went to high school together. So I'm super happy to have you here. Welcome to the podcast, Jana.
Yeah, thanks, Lunden. I'm so excited to be here today. So thank you for having me.
That's so great. I'm so happy to have you. Before we pressed record, we didn't talk too much because I always feel like the magic happens when we just press record and go. But I was like, how's your week? And you're like, oh, it's been packed. Like just been like going after it. And so I know that you are definitely, a woman on a mission. I feel like just reading those few sentences, it doesn't even nearly get to exactly what you've been doing in this space and the transformation you've experienced in your own personal life too. So I'm just going to pass it over to you. Expand on this story. Tell us a little bit about how we got here today, and welcome.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So it's so weird to kind of reflect back to say like how many years I've been in this space and also how it's transformed. And because I never thought I would be here. Like I never thought I would be doing this. I never wanted to be a dietitian. I never thought I'd be in the health space. I thought I would be in business, but I just thought it would look, so much different. And, I got into this from my own story. So I always like to share that because I think it helps us connect with one another of how, things can really just transpire. And I got into this space because I was really sick. Like I was in and out of hospitals. I was going to doctors. They were trying to figure out like why I was not feeling good. And I had one of the most powerful moments with a doctor who said, Jana, you get to decide how you feel based on the food that you put into your body. Because I found out that I was extremely lactose intolerant. And I was like, what does that even mean? Like, how does this work? And that was the extent of what he told me. There was no education. There was no other, additional information, no referrals, no nothing. And I'm thankful that I'm a curious person by nature and started to research and find out this information. And as I started changing my diet, I started feeling better. And I thought, well, hell, how many other people aren't feeling good because of the foods that they're eating? So it really, I dropped out of college by this point. I got, back into college and really, refocused myself to, finally become a registered dietitian and really work with mainly women in this space to really define what health looks like for them and to help them with feeling really good about themselves.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love all of it. And know that feeling. And I think a lot of women listening too, where it's like, okay, you're like, here's your diagnosis on a silver platter, but like no education, no where to go from there, no support, no guidance. It's just kind of like, okay, like there you go, label, you have this, whatever. And that can be really frustrating and really hard. And one thing that you said that really stood out, and I think it's also why we definitely, one of the reasons why we do what you do, you're like, thankfully I was, curious enough to look and reach out and like not take that for an answer and probe. And there's a lot of people out there who really won't do that. And so it's really like my hope and prayer. Like I said, before we did this, I was like, if one person can be changed, it's like that one person listening. It's like, sometimes it just takes a podcast episode or someone like tuning in and being like, oh, like I didn't even, and so, yeah, I just really feel like, yeah, that it's really, really awesome that you're doing what you're doing and we're going in this direction here today. So super excited about that.
Yeah. Well, and I really like to think of it from an empowerment perspective, because there's so many things that we can do for our health in so many different ways that really allow us to be in control of ourselves, of our bodies. And I think sometimes like in this space, it can feel like we're not in control and that there's so many different things that are happening to us versus us happening to it. And so I just love to really, share this message to be able to connect with people, but then also to empower them to say, like, you can do this. It takes time and it's totally a journey, but it's something that is also really beautiful. There's so much to be learned about ourselves and our bodies. And I just really love to share that message that you can create the health that you are looking to achieve.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's like, yeah, it's just a matter of seeking out like the right tools. And like you said, you get these diagnoses with no tools, no guidance, no education. And I know that's what you're all about now is like, reframing, the experience that you had for others. And I know that we've talked about before, like I think in the DMs or something like that, Facebook comments about a post that you posted regarding like willpower and just trying harder and doing more and all the things. And often in our quest to like, okay, you might say like, okay, yeah, I'm asking why and I'm trying to figure out what. And then society feeds us, okay, well, you're not trying hard enough. If you're not, losing weight, then this is the answer. And it's, you need to do more and try this. And this is the secret formula. And, if you would have just pushed harder and you had more willpower or went after it a little bit, just extra, maybe you would have, seen a little bit of results or seen a glimpse of hope or whatever. And you shared this really, really powerful story about your experience in Weight Watchers and weighing in and just feeling like super uncomfortable. And I would just love if you could share that because it's just one of those stories where I feel like, yeah, I've been there with relatives to Weight Watchers before, and I understand that environment. I feel like it's so vulnerable. And I just feel like when you posted that, I like really got goosebumps and I really felt for you because of the way that you spoke about it for sure.
Yeah. Well, and so I think that that's also another layer to just like being in this space too. Like, not only did I have that experience with doctors, but I have struggled with weight my entire life. Like, I was never like the thin girl. I was always, a little bit overweight. I always was on and off different diets. I went to probably my first like Weight Watchers meeting when I was probably 11 or 12. And, the solution was to be this specific number on the scale. And it really didn't capture all the different ways that I was trying to, enhance my health. Like, so for example, like, and I'll share this and coach based on it of like, yes, we want to know the number on the scale because it does tell us some information, but it's not the whole picture. And it doesn't tell us the entirety of everything that you are doing. So I always like to look at, the behaviors that individuals are engaging with. And the story that you referenced and the story that I shared is I was doing everything possible. I was following the points. I was doing the protein bars, which by the way, I found out have dairy in them. So they were actually making my stomach worse.
Dang it.
But I was doing everything that they said. And I was like 0.2 pounds off from the goal weight that I had set. And the person that was there said, oh, you probably should have tried harder this week. And I remember feeling so defeated. Like, I went home and just cried because no matter what I was doing, it was not being validated or captured because of that number on the scale. And so I think, I continue to, engage in a lot of different diets. I literally have been on every diet out there for many years, Weight Watchers, Atkins, paleo. I did a candida cleanse. I was trying to find the solutions of making my body be this certain number and look this certain way, because I felt that that was the answer to what I was looking for, and then also to health. And so I know that story, and I know that pain, because it is really painful to feel like you don't fit into what is considered beautiful. Like, that's really what it comes down to, is there's so much that's being put out there of like how, like, this is what is considered pretty, or like, desirable. And if you're not able to achieve that, like, the mind tricks, like the tricks that your mind plays on you, is that you internalize that as like, I'm not worthy, I'm not valuable, like no one's going to want me. Like, it just starts really spiraling into all these things that impact our self-esteem, our self-worth, how we show up in the world, and all because of one little number on the scale. And so, I mean, as I, got into the space as a dietitian, I think I did it to, start healing my own self and like figure out like, what does this mean? And by being able to not only be in this space and know it from my own personal story, but the science, and then also coaching other women, like, I've just been able to really, find that there's so much more that matters than just the number on the scale. So I think that I think this is a conversation we need to have as women, of like, what does that number on the scale represent for us? And why do we keep chasing it through really unhealthy measures? And then we still never seem to be able to achieve it. Because I always give this example, like, if you look back 10 years, if you look back at a photo, most women be like, oh, I can't believe I thought I was fat. And then you fast forward, to 10 years, and you're still feeling that way. So it's not necessarily the weight loss that is going to cure those feelings inside.
Yeah. I always refer to it as like the inner muffin top. It's like people come and they're like, like, fix this or whatever. And it's like you said, and they look back pictures and they're like, oh, that was like 35 pounds ago. Like, nothing's changed. And like you said, it is in the mind. It is that mindset. I love the book, The Battlefield of the Mind. And that was a very powerful book for me. Early on, when I was coming back to America from Austria during, the year that was 2020. And it's really, like you said, it's the tricks that your mind plays on you that puts all these labels and all these things that I am worthy or I'm not worthy of, and all this stuff that can really build up from, like you said, a number that's just a tool, for certain things. And there's been, I don't own, or I should say, like, in the past years, I didn't really own a scale. I didn't have one. We have one here where I'm staying now at my parents' house, and I've hopped on it and hopped off a few times. And to that point, it's like, there had been times where I was like, oh, I felt actually like pretty lean. Like, I just went to the bathroom. I was like feeling good. And I stepped on and I was like, oh, it's actually like 3 pounds more than when I did it the last time. I don't really remember when that was, maybe last week, whatever. Numbers go up and down and fluctuate. And so it's so unfortunate, because we're so focused on this number that, we don't get that time to come into our body and be like, oh, how do I feel? Do I feel good? Do I feel energized? Like, how are my joints feeling? Like, kind of like what's going on, in my physical body. Yeah, it's good to check in there, but like, just be looking down at a particular number, it can really get, super frustrating and super mesmerizing. And so, yeah, I'm always open to have that conversation. I'm always open to be like, oh yeah, sometimes scale goes up 3, 4, whatever pounds. And I didn't, really feel like I was doing anything different. Water retention was probably different. Hormones are different at a different time. I generally personally go off of like, yeah, how clothes are fitting, and also like, energy, and kind of the mobility of the body, and kind of how that feels. And I love that as a key indicator versus, focusing on a number, because it's like, then you never sit back to be like, wait, like, how are things feeling? And so do you remember a time where you were kind of like, oh, after all, I'm sure it was a lot going on, and maybe even still to this day, but like, getting that number out of your head and being like, damn, I feel really good. Like, whatever that number is, like, I'm just like, this feels good for me. Do you remember that moment?
Yeah. And so it's interesting, because it was a number that I thought that was still too high. So, and I don't know why, like, I would say like 8 times out of 10, most women would be like, oh, I want to be 120 pounds. And I'm like, is that realistic? And like, what are you referring back to? And so many times they're referring back to like their high school weight. And so, and I'm like, but your body's supposed to change. Like, and it's not supposed to be that, like, especially if you've had children or like any other thing that's happened in your life, like your body will transform. And so I always like to check that. And so like for me, I usually range between like a good 10 pounds, like just depending on where I am in my menstrual cycle, like the stress, how much sleep I'm getting, like our bodies are supposed to fluctuate. And that's a good thing. Like it signifies that it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. So I think it was where I really knew that I was at a very healthy weight was when I was training for my first half marathon and I finished that half marathon without stopping. Like that was my goal. I wanted to train for a half marathon and I wanted to run the whole thing without stopping. And I did that. I died the next day, but I still did it. And I felt like, oh my gosh, I was still at a weight that was higher than what I thought I was supposed to be at. But I achieved this like feat that I never thought was possible for me. And so it really started like restructuring, like, again, my own connection with my body and how I was thinking about that number on the scale in so many different ways. So that was probably like the eye-opening moment.
Yeah. I know, it's crazy. And and I love that you share that. And thank you so much. Cause you're like, yeah, it was even then a number that I thought was too high. So I had this thought, I felt great. I finished something. I was physically fit. I accomplished that goal, but like somehow that number still registered as whatever. And, I don't know about you, but those are when we say this conversations need to be had. That's what I think about is like, yeah, what happens when we think about it, what's going on in our brain. So that like together, we're kind of like, oh, we're not alone in this kind of like chatter and this noise that really happens, and it's just, yeah, it's really, really, and what's crazy too is, and I'm sure that you have clients of all different age ranges and groups and stuff too, and worked with a variety of different women. But I've had this conversation with Ella, a girl that I work closely with. She's awesome. And she's 19. And I just adore her. And she's so fantastic. But we have conversations a lot regarding like body image and, different age groups and what we're exposed to. And we went to high school together, you and I, and did we graduate the same year? Were you?
I think I graduated 2005. Was it?
Yeah.
five?
Okay. You were 1 year before me. Yeah, I graduated 2006. Okay. So she, of course, graduated much, she's much later than us. But I remember being like, yeah, whatever, 16, 17, getting my first phone, like playing Snake, like in, Mr. Freitas's class, like underneath the table, trying to, yeah, I loved him, doing like that. And she's like, oh, well, when we were like in 5th grade, 6th grade, everybody's on Instagram. Like they had their mom's phone or iPad, And so the exposure to that. And then I also was like, because it's like, then the conversation's even more important. Because yeah, it's like, then we're exposed to, like, I feel like we saw a lot of realness of when it comes to like growing up and awkward phases and a lot of that kind of stuff that you just don't see now. And then also thinking about too, of being at home and not really being in school and seeing people and seeing a lot of screens and stuff like that too. I just feel like that's one thing that's been really major for me too. And, kind of catapulting that curiosity and wanting to show up is like, that's crazy. It's totally different levels, totally different age groups exposed to totally different, things telling us we should or shouldn't be a certain way at ages when we don't even like know that we're susceptible to anything, and that just really pulls at my heartstrings too, because I think about how challenging it was even at a time where, when we were in that age group there. And now it's like, you're always reminded.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. Always. I can't even imagine being in middle school or high school with the access to social media that is had, between Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. I mean, all of these outlets that can be really positive, as well, but can also be really damaging. And we're seeing that in the research. We're showing like both girls and boys at very young ages that are, engaging in really unhealthy practices to look a certain way, to weigh a certain weight, to do these things that really aren't realistic. They're very, I don't know, they're not real, like so many between the filters and between, how you can change up videos and all these things, like they're just really, I think that they're changing just the construct in our minds of what we see as being human today. And I can't even imagine that. I think I got my first cell phone when I was a junior, and that's because I was playing sports and my parents wanted to know where I was. But I mean, it was just for calling purposes, which saying that makes me feel a little bit old. However, like I can't, like, just even how we compare ourselves and, the comparison aspect is huge of like, she looks this way or I should look this way. And it really messes up our connection with ourselves and our self-esteem and, how we see our body. And I don't know, I'm afraid of it, but I think that's where we as younger women can really step into this space and share like, that's not real. Like, this is a real, woman's body. This is what is supposed to happen. This is natural. And to have those open and honest conversations, I think are really powerful.
Yeah, I know. And I don't really even have an answer to that. I just feel like I want to keep talking about it because like, I can't, to your point, like I can't imagine too. And it was a tool just to call and just to communicate. And then like, yeah, text and all that, some certain game stuff came out, but like the connectability and like the in your faceness was not there, at all. You mentioned something on comparison, and I was having a conversation on Clubhouse the other week. I love just conversations surrounding words and just kind of like what it means. And I know we're talking a lot regarding women too and comparison. And I know that when we think of comparison, we think of like that comparison trap of, how did that work for her? Or she tried this diet, or how did they lose all this weight? Or how come I'm doing all the things and they're, still having dessert and cheesecake and I'm, brought my Tupperware and I'm like eating cucumber in the corner and I'm not losing my, whatever, we like compare so much on so many different levels. But, also being able to use comparison, for the word that what it is just kind of like, looking side to side and seeing like, what other women are doing and being excited for them to succeed and using that as a tool for empowerment for yourself. What does that look like for you? Because I know that we've had both in our lives. We for sure look side to side and like, how does that work for them in our lives and fitness and business, I'm sure too. And then also, like, how have you kind of turned that around in order to do fun things like be on podcasts and support other women who have great, great value to offer and great programs and are helping women too? Like, how have you navigated that? Because that's not easy.
Okay, so I'll be just totally transparent. It's called therapy. I have, I worked with a therapist for about 3 years because I was really struggling to do it on my own. I just kept going into comparing myself to everyone else's life story and feeling like I was behind. I wasn't doing it right. I must be getting something wrong. I was using really unhealthy coping mechanisms. I was getting into really shitty relationships. Like, it was not pretty. And so I had to reach out and get help. And I got help by talking with a counselor. And she really helped me transform my mind. I mean, it always comes back to our mindset. And, what is a healthier mindset, or what is healthiest for you? And we really started looking at my self-care practices, and really that instead of comparison, it became a level of self-awareness to where I was assessing my own needs, right? Like, so that, like, what do I need? So I will still have periods of time where I shut off all social media because it becomes too much and I start spiraling. I start being hypercritical on myself. I start weighing myself more because I want to try to control something, or like, I just start stressing out. And that is my indication. Okay, like something's off. Now is my time to turn inwards, start having that self-awareness of like, what do I need to care for myself to help me get to that next level where I feel good? And that's hard because oftentimes we start saying like, why versus what? And that's a huge shift of like, why is this happening to me? Or why can't I have that body? Versus like, what can I do in this moment that will help me with feeling good about myself? Or what do I need right now to be able to take care of myself? So those are huge like mindset shifts that were super powerful in my own journey to be able to really disconnect and really also own my own story. So we all have a journey. We all have, our highs and our lows and our messes, and we all have it. We're just really afraid to talk about it because it means that we have to be vulnerable. And I really, through working with a counselor, she really helped me of saying like, this is what people need to know because you're actually allowing them to be human. And through that, we can form connection, we can form conversation, and then we can form, transformation, because now you're not hiding. Like, you don't have the shame or the guilt that's associated with it. So it's always, that was my pivotal moment. And that's still how I navigate it. I still have people that I check in with. I have mentors. I have people that keep me accountable. I have friends. I have that tribe aspect of like, they know, okay, like, Jana, you're a little off, or like, hey, like, have you thought about this? Those are so, so powerful to know. Like, not only do you have to be accountable to yourself, but you also have to have that accountability from others and also from coaches. So I have a business coach. Like, I have coaches that help me in this space too. Like, I'm not doing it on my own, and I never want to. I want to be with people. I want to be, vulnerable and seen as much as I possibly can, because I'm still navigating that. It's still not easy for me. And I still struggle with it. So that's what's helped. And I'm going to continue to, also be that person that I needed when I was younger as well.
That's crazy that you said that. Not crazy, but I had a guest on here, I don't know, maybe like episode 3 or 4, my friend Gia. I love her. She's great. She said the same thing. She's like, I just want to like be the mentor that I wanted when I was looking at everybody else's bodies and I didn't see anybody who looked like me, And so it's just so beautiful. It reminds us that we really like, yeah, we're all in this together. You know what I mean? It's like, it's really powerful there. Therapy. I mean, it's so amazing. It is one of the best tools in my toolbox, and my biggest coaching advice ever is don't do it alone. I also have a lot of coaches. Any area that I feel like I could do better, I'm like, how can I learn more, do better, hire a coach? It's really, really important. And I oftentimes, and this doesn't mean I can't have conversations with people who have not been to therapy, but sometimes I'm like, I just can't, like, I can't, because like, we don't, the conversation's not there. And I'll oftentimes talk to friends who I know have been to therapy and, have been in the marathon mindset of, doing, like you said, I was in therapy for 3 years or a year and a half or whatever that might look like. And sometimes I'm like, it's so hard because I feel like the tools that I've learned there, I'm trying to use them and then we're not meeting, in certain areas. And so I did an emotional eating episode with Dr. Dixie Short. And I was just like, yeah, I'm always an advocate of therapy and asking for help and seeking out those tools, because it was, yeah, people listening might think like, oh yeah, we just go from comparison to like cheerleader. And we used to look at them as, bringing us down, but now they bring us up. And it's like, okay, well, like, what is that? Let's bridge that gap for me. What did that look like for you? Because for me, it also looked like therapy, and it also looked like, lots of reading and, lots of spiritual practices. And that book, like I mentioned, The Battlefield of the Mind, I'm just obsessed with Joyce Meyer. She's so amazing. And so thank you for bringing that too, because yeah, we're always as coaches too. And like you said, I'm still navigating it. Like, it's still kind of funky. Like, sometimes I still catch myself in scroll mode, or I still keep thinking like, did I do good enough? Did they, then it's just like that awareness and how much time we actually spend there, like marinating in that space that we say that we don't want to be. I feel like that's the win. If you can just like, get in and get out really quick or whatever. That for me is always a major win, because it doesn't always, never sometimes ever completely go away. And like, that's okay. We're here to talk about it, how it doesn't go really away for us too. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's a big thing to, call out, is that it is a process and it doesn't happen overnight. I think especially in this space of like, and especially when we want change, we want it to happen quickly because we just want to be on that other side. And I know, like, I felt that in my own story of like, okay, give me a week. I'll be good in a week. Like that's perfect. Like I'll do that. And then it turned into 2 weeks, and then 3. And then, you're just, peeling back the different layers that are there. And And it takes time, and to be able to honor and create that space for it not to be like an ends to a mean and oh, you're fixed, because you don't need fixing. You're not broken. You're not like, there's nothing wrong with you. You're processing this, and you're understanding how it shows up for you. And that's a big change too, of like, I always say, like, we have to get curious about where you are versus getting critical, because it's so easy for us to go down that critical route and just be like super hard on ourselves versus just staying in that curiosity, mindset of saying, okay, what does this mean for me? And how is it showing up? And how can I do better or different if I so choose, right? Like, we always have the choice. So I think that's a big mindset shift as well.
Mm-hmm. We do have the choice. We do have the choice to be the person that does the thing or the person that complains about the thing. And you really hit the nail on the head there. And I know that, you continue to pay it forward in your work and, continuing to serve and help women, not have to be, hopefully we say like skip like a few of the steps that we, that make it a little bit easier, or at least like not have to navigate, just like let's metaphorically and sometimes hopefully physically at times too, be able to like link arms and like go through the trenches of navigating a lot of this stuff together. So talk to us about your coaching and what you've been doing to help other women and your Summer Healthy Body Boot Camp that's coming soon.
Yeah. So I really help women break that vicious cycle of chronic dieting. So, trying diet after diet, maybe seeing some initial weight loss results, but ultimately, plateauing and then gaining it back plus more. And oftentimes they're ending at a higher weight than what they started. So I really help women break that cycle, break away from diet culture, and really form a healthy relationship, not only with their bodies, but also with food, from, really self-care practices, and really defining that for them. And this is where we need help, because so often we feel like we're selfish for taking care of ourselves. And this is something that my counselors share with me. She's like, the goal is to be self-full. Like, we are filling up your cup so that you can pour over into other people. And if we're not pouring into you from those self-care practices, you don't have anything to give. So I really help women be like so full of themselves that they are pouring over to everyone else. And I love that. Like, I love my favorite compliment to give women is, I love how full of yourself you are, because that just means that your light is shining bright. You are probably doing so much more for other people than when you are feeling basically suffocating because you're not taking care of yourself. So that's what I help women do, recreate. And oftentimes, like, there might be weight loss, but sometimes, it's not. It really depends on the person. But oftentimes we do see weight loss when we come from that means. So I am launching my group coaching program on March 22nd. It is the Summer Healthy Body Boot Camp. It's a 90-day intensive where I give you all of the tools from how to break up with diet culture to metabolism and eating for your body. So we dive into a lot of different aspects, 90-day program. So you are ready to go the first day of summer. So that's coming out March 22nd.
Yay, I'm excited. I will put all the links for everything that Jana mentioned in the description and show notes there. And I love it, the visual of being full of yourself when you said it. And you're like, yeah, it's vibrant. And that's exactly what I envisioned too. It wasn't even negative at all, because the way that you said it, you're just like overflowing. It's like, you want some, here, like, let's just, keep on giving, because it's going to keep coming. So I appreciate that. And that kind of, visual is really, it's cute. And I like it. I like that. It feels good. It feels warm, and it feels bright. But beyond the Summer Body Boot Camp, where can people connect with you on social media, your website? Share with us there too.
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram at Your Non-Traditional Dietitian. I'm also on Facebook with Health Wins with Jana. And then my website is healthwins.org.
Perfect. Got it. We noted it all, and we'll put it in the show notes and description. Thank you so much, Jana, for being here. It was such a pleasure to talk with you and reconnect with you, especially, after going through, I love it, because when we have these conversations later, it's like, oh yeah. And putting the puzzle pieces of kind of where we were on our journey when we were playing sports together and all the things. It's like, you think you know people until you don't, and it's like, and then you get older and we get to share these stories. And so I'm super thankful that you are here and that you were open and shared everything that you did with us today. You guys get connected with Jana, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thanks, Lunden.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Self-Love and Sweat, the podcast. Hey, do me a favor. Wherever you're listening to this podcast, give us a review. This really helps a lot. And share this with a friend. I'm only one person, and with your help, we can really spread the message of self-love and sweat and change more lives all around the world. I'm Lunden Souza, reminding you that you deserve a life full of passion, presence, and purpose, fueled by self-love and sweat. This podcast is a Hit Spot Austria production.